Hey everybody, I am Jeffrey Jansen. Today is August 27th, 2019. It is Tuesday. I want to tell you a little something about perseverance, about going the distance. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to give you my own personal examples now. For years I take from books and, from the different failures and that I've had. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to tell you something. I want you to teach you about little plants, a sapling, what they do. Whenever we grow something in the garden, I want you to pay attention to this. This is important, and I believe it goes along with the lines of what we need to do today. Okay? And I do this as I watch my daughter grow, and I watch, all of my neighbors and my friends and everything else. I want to explain to you a sapling. I want to explain to you seeds. Whenever you get seeds from a garden, you take this seeds and you plant them. They give you about 100, maybe 1,000 seeds, and you plant them, you put them in pea pods, you do whatever it takes. As you're planting, okay, and as you're doing all this, we're going to go in the back so I can show this to you. Give me just a second. I want to show you what I'm talking about. Give me just a second. I've got to get to where I can see. Well, to me, I think one of the greatest things that we can teach each other is what we can learn with wildlife, with nature. So you plant all these seeds, okay? And sometimes, all of a sudden, some of the seeds will start to grow. And they're growing and growing and growing. And you don't know what else to do with them because they're growing, they're getting big and tall. Okay, so those seeds are strong. Okay, just like a football player, just like that guy in high school, those really, really great athletes, the strong athletes, the ones that we all want to be like, and we want to do, we want to be just like. So we're sitting there planting these seeds, and so you got a thing like this, and you basically have your seeds, and you put them in little pots, and as they're growing, you go a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and you get some right off the bat that are really big and strong, and they're doing whatever they can, to grow and grow. But the problem is, you look at those like, yeah, it's going to be a big, strong plant. But normally, almost every single time, that's the plant that dies. Why? It's growing too fast. It doesn't get all the nutrients it needs. Then you have all these other seeds that aren't growing. They're not growing. They're not coming up. They're not coming up. And you're looking at them like, well, man, they're never going to do any good. So you count out. Then you got these little bitty ones that you're kind of looking at like, they're going to go away. They're not going to make it very much. They're not going to get enough sunlight. They're not going to get enough water. Not going to get enough feed. So you kind of count them out, but you still have them there. So as you're planting and all the seeds start to grow and everything else, and when you're doing hydroponics and you're growing and you're growing and you're growing, next thing you know, you have a plant that looks like it's on its deathbed. And you don't want to count it out so much, so you try to give it a little more fertilizer and everything else that produces a little bit of fruit. But now you're paying attention to the bigger, stronger plants. And those bigger, stronger plants, you love them. They're the envy of all the other plants. So you're out there and you're looking at them, but they're not producing no fruit. They're getting big and strong, and hey, I'm better than everybody else. But they don't have any support. They don't have a root system. They didn't read the books. They didn't study the knowledge. They didn't care what happened to them. And next thing you know, you put them out in the sun, and because their root system's not too big, they die. So you're like, man. And whenever you have all these seeds and everything else, you realize that growing seeds, there's about a 50 to 60% failure rate. And you're like, what's going on here? And you look at the big ones and they die. Then you look at the small ones and they die. But what you're not noticing is that one that's just struggling to hang on. It keeps getting just enough nutrients. Not just enough. Then all of a sudden you notice the one that you put out early, the one that wanted to hang on. He was the baby of the group. He was the small one. He was the one that no one thought could do it. But you want to know something? He kept growing. And he gave you a little bit more fruit. So as he's giving you a little bit of fruit here and there, you're going over to the other saplings. And you're like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. But all of a sudden they die. Then all of a sudden you got 2 or 3 nice ones. But the problem is those nice ones are the ones you did not pay attention to. The ones you kept giving credit to all the time were the big ones, the strong ones, the fast ones. The ones that you were looking at like they'll never make it are the ones that now you're looking at like, you know what? Let me give it a little more fertilizer. Let me do a little bit more. Now they're growing. But you want to know something? That one guy that you gave up on, he's still giving you fruit. And you look down, and some of the ones you had hope for, they grow and build, but they're not giving you any fruit. They're not doing much. They're just there. The ones you're giving all the credit to, they're just there. They're like, yeah, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. So why is this important? Because as you're growing your fruit, as you're growing your seeds, and as they're growing strong, just like a human being, just like each one of our kids,
It takes a community. It took the other plants around it. It had to grow its roots deep to get to the water in the soil. It had to get the fertilizer. But you want to know something? The ones that made it are the ones that were able to basically get their roots into the soil that nobody would want to plant anything in. The ones that went into the hard dirt. The ones that are cared for, but taught to be on their own. The ones that are getting just the right amount of sunlight. You weren't paying attention to the small guy. For you. But now he's the one that's growing for you. And the one that you ruled that's out and down and out and everything else, the one that you just kept giving a little bit of fruit here and there, you just realized he gave you more fruit and none of the others are even producing fruit yet. Then all of a sudden you saw that small guy that was nothing is the strong one, the one that's producing more than you can imagine because you gave him just enough time. But he had something to prove. He had to prove to himself first. He had to believe in himself, and the people around him then started to believe in him. The ones that automatically knew I'm better than everybody, they're the ones that quit early. Like in school, we always look at the big football players and the basketball players and, you know, the ones that can play the musician. But then we look at them when we're older and we realize they didn't believe in themselves. And they quit when nobody else was believing in them. You know, too much of anything is going to go in a bad direction. If you give them too much attention, if you don't give them enough, if you don't get enough studying and learning and everything else. It goes the same with the military and the Marines and everything else. The small guy is the one, usually the one that's going to make it, as long as you give him just enough rope, just enough, so he can keep pushing on, keep doing more, keep going the course, and eventually they're going to give fruit upon fruit upon fruit. But all the other ones, the ones that you counted on, the ones you're loving, the ones that you were rooting for, all they were was there for show. They didn't give you fruit. They might have grew fast. Okay, they may have got big, they may have got a bush on them. But the ones that you weren't paying attention to, they got just enough attention. The ones you didn't pay attention to at all, they died. The ones you gave too much attention to, they never produced fruit, and they died. Why? Because in life, we must keep reading. We must plant our roots deep. We must dig our holes deep enough. We must be able to survive the cold. We must be better today than who we were yesterday. We must sit there and help people with their struggles. Whether they're going to help us or not doesn't matter. We must be a better person for those around us. We must be it again. Why? Because when we plant our seeds anymore, we want them to grow. But it takes a community to grow. And when we're finally able to grow, when we're finally able to do that, together we create a lot of fruit. Together we create a lot of produce. Together we make champions. You know, the ones that are humble are the ones that are doing the most. You know why they're humble? They know they're good, but they're not told to brag. They know that they're fast, but they will still back off and run with other people. You see, life's not about the biggest and the strongest. It's not about the sole survivor. It's about the community that sticks together. It's about those that pay attention to each other, to help out each other. You know, if my neighbor needs something, I'm going to help them because one day I may need something. We all have pasts that, you know, may not be less than sociable, but we learn from our mistakes. We learn from that what we do. You know, I had a run-in a couple weeks back. You know, I upset somebody when they were younger, and they came up to me and they confronted me. Now, to most people, wouldn't that be that big of a deal? In fact, everybody around me is kind of laughing. But I kind of looked at the person and was like, okay, tell me what's going on. And the thing about it is, they got so upset because nobody paid attention to their feelings, that when they finally got told that what they did in the past mattered, and I looked directly at that person and said, it's funny because I don't regret a thing in the past. I loved everything I did in my past. You know why? Because it got me through this, this, and this. And they didn't know who they were mattered to me. And when they found out that what happened in the past actually mattered, and that's the reason why I could never take it back, all of a sudden they realized that they were important. They actually mattered when they didn't think they did. Why? Because I let them know they mattered. I let them know that who they were made a difference in my life. I let them know that because of them, I got through some of my darkest days. And there was no way I was ever going to basically regret them. Why? Because they were great people. And that's what makes great friends. You know, you don't have people don't have to do anything for you, and you should never expect them to do. But when you do for others, eventually the ones that you help make it to the top will reach down and pull you up. The ones that are greedy will eventually be like that strong plant. They'll go away eventually. There won't be anybody important, or they'll change their attitude, and then they're going to start helping. Look at the movie Braveheart, okay? Look at, in the end, the person that was the biggest coward, the person that told on everybody, turned out to be the biggest hero. Why? Because they realized that it was more important to do what was right than what was right now. We all have made mistakes in life. We all mess up. But we need to remind each other that we matter, that we are important, no matter where we're at in the world. And when people sit there and they want to use social media and they want to use all this other stuff to down on people and destroy people and hurt people, we have to understand that all those are people looking for attention. They can be forgiven too. But their comments and their words just either shows a lack of education or they really just want attention. The fact of the matter is, we need to accept people for who they are. And we need to ask questions and understand what's going on with them. We had a breakdown in society. It's time we take it back. You know, in the Marine Corps, they throw us in there. And they throw us in there literally naked. Having nothing. Have nothing to lean upon. Having no communications. All we have is each other. They do Mount Sarabachis, and I know only Marines are going to understand this. But here's just it. You have to have confidence in yourself when you're completely naked. I know people don't want to hear this part of it, but it's true. When you have nothing to rely on but the person next to you, you don't have clothing, you don't have weapons or anything else, but you still have to get a job completed, how are you going to get that job done? You know, there's a reason why Marines love each other, but they hate each other at the exact same time. We're around each other so much that we're doing so much that we're so reliable upon each other, we just can't stand being around each other. But then when we're not around each other and we have to get stuff done, and we do not have that structure with us anymore, we miss our brothers. We may not miss the game. We miss our brothers. We miss our sisters. I watch some of my friends, and I got a buddy on here, and maybe I'm going to do an interview with him if he'll let me, but his name's Cody. I watched this young man, you know, this boy, sit there and go out of his way to make gift baskets for everybody else, and he wants to be military. He just loved it. But you want to know something? You wouldn't necessarily watch somebody like him. He was scrawny. He was small, but his heart was gold. And you want to know something? He still kept shaking hands. Didn't care what people said or thought about him. Didn't care that, you know, all he cared about was making a difference. Now he's doing all this military stuff, and quite frankly, he can outperform almost anybody I know. But you know how he got there is learning teamwork, learning community, shaking hands, being there for each other. Having an awesome grandfather who I get the privilege of being around here all the time, having an awesome mom and dad, an awesome sister. And I think of him a lot when I look at the scrawny guy. Now, I shouldn't say that, but I'm so proud of this man. He's grown to be a young man. You want to know something? He may be small, but he's not somebody you would scrap with. He's not somebody you would think that could probably be a dead shot on something. And you want to know something? He's still kind. But he got there, and now he's one of the best. You know why he's one of the best and he's always going to be one of the best? Because he put everybody else first. He put my brothers and sisters first when he was young. And as he gets older and older, we're slowly teaching him. We're teaching him from our faults, from our mistakes. And as parents, that's what we must do to our children. Teach them what your faults are. Don't teach them why they need to treat you like a hero, because you're not. Teach them what your faults are, and they will treat you like a hero. Because you want to know something? The heroes come from the biggest mistakes in the world. Some of the greatest men and women, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, have been through so much failure in life. But when they pass it on their kids, the things to do and not do, they look at life a different way. But if all we do is we push, and we expect them reading books and not understanding until you read them so much to understand. Basically, you know, if you want to have true success, go after those that have failed and learn from the failures. I tell you right now, I was talking to one of my mentors today, and they're right. My buddy Brian's been through the trenches. He keeps going. Everybody's like, why do you brag about this guy? No, I don't get no money from him. He's a team leader. My buddy Rich is a team leader. My buddy Brian's a team leader. But here's just it. They failed. And they failed again, and they failed again. They failed so much that when you first met them years ago, you would never want to get around them. Why? Because they kept failing and failing. And they failed over and over again. They failed so much that you'd just pretty much write them off and be like, they're done. They're not military. But you want to know something they kept doing? When everybody else kept being successful, they kept failing. When everybody else kept getting the awards, they kept failing. They kept failing forward. They kept moving forward. You know what happens in the Marine Corps when you miss? You keep shooting until you get that dang target, until you get your buddies out. You keep going forward. You keep going forward. You make mistakes. You make mistakes. You find ways to adapt and overcome. Adapt and overcome. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to look around one day, and you're going to see that the people that are in your life now are not the same people that used to be. You know why? Because the ones that were succeeding quit. The ones that never knew failure quit. The ones that basically only know failure, and so they quit every time they get failure, they quit. But the ones that are around you are the ones that are going to keep growing. You're going to watch them, and you're going to see that when they have a failure, they're going to find a way to adapt, overcome, and create a success. And then they're going to teach the next person not to do it that way, but maybe do it this way. You know why the United States works out so great for people? It's not because we're better than anybody. It's because we accepted people's failures. We accepted different inventions. We accepted different ways of thinking to where we actually created better people. We got rid of slavery. We got rid of racism. Now, is it still there? Yeah, but those people don't succeed. The ones that succeed, that look around, they look at everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and they learn what success is. Success is learning failure. Back to my original point. That little sapling learned that it needed to have a big root system. That person that sets world records today learned they needed to run 7 days a week instead of 6. That dancer, like my daughter's a beautiful dancer, they learned that it takes practice to learn how to do the pirouette. It takes practice to learn to do the flips. It takes practice to basically do points. That Marine was not a Marine going in the military, and basically he might have been able to shoot with his daddy's shotgun, but I promise you he could not shoot a target 500 feet away. But the Marines taught him. Why? Muscle memory. You keep doing it over and over and over again, and if you fail, you do it again. If you fail, you do it again. If you fail, you do it again. You do it differently until you succeed. I watch everybody, they give up so easy. They give up because they don't believe in themselves. They give up because the people around them no longer believe in them. They give up because one little argument makes them regret anything. They don't see the bigger picture. They don't want to see the picture. What they want to do is they want the argument. And you want to know what happens to them? Eventually they fizz out. Eventually they shrivel up like a grape in sun, and they die like a raisin that's rotting. Don't shrivel up like a rotting raisin. Learn from failures. Accept failures and know the greatest thing in your life is those failures. Because those failures are what's going to get you through every single day. And if you keep going the course, whether you look it or not, you keep practicing, you keep studying, you keep reading, you keep running, you keep working out, you keep trying different things. Let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. How do you think we got the car today? How do you think we get better engines? How do you think we get better gas mileage? How do you think we discover what solar power was? How do you think something in Quincy, Illinois called the car radio came about? Car radios are good, but a little bitty metal piece is the reason why car radios work in cars today. It's developed in my hometown. Car radios existed, but this little bitty 2-cent metal piece is what created the engine noise not to go on there. Now, what does all this have in common with you and me and everybody else? Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't sit there and get so mad that you just, I'm done. Don't do that. You know why? Because all these failures you're having is going to be the greatest success in your life. And like they say, once you're there, it's done. It's the race, not the finish line and not the start. It's the race that makes us who we are. It's the in-between that makes us great. It's who we are and where we come from, and accepting people for who they are and their strengths. I will make up any of your weaknesses with my strengths if you will make up my weaknesses with your strengths. And that's how we have to treat people. Kindness, courtesy, go the course, never give up. Sometimes we do have to step back and take a breath. But be like that little sapling. Grow when no one's watching you. Be great when no one can see it. And the day that people know that you're great is the day you already knew you were. My name is Jeffrey Jansen. I hope you all have a great day. I'll talk to everybody later. Bye.